All right, welcome back to the STS Network. This is Stats and Scars back in motion for Dallas Cowboys OTAs. Super excited to have you guys back on the show. And if you are a first-time listener, this is the analyst and the medical guy. The analyst is my brother Ryan, and then the medical guy, my cousin Jacob. So the little backstory on the both of them, because it's been some time. We have some new followers. The analyst is the analyst, and the medical guy is our injury analysis and things like that. So Stats and Scars, that's how we got the name and whatnot. But excited to be back in the saddle. We wanted to cover kind of 5 major points of emphasis on the Dallas Cowboys OTAs, offseason, the trades, the head coaching changes, kind of all of it. Even the contract negotiations with Micah Parsons. But yeah, we'll start it off. Boys, congrats on starting families. You know, that's a big deal for both of you guys. So congrats to you both.
Thank you.
Yes. Big deal.
Yes.
Father of one.
Yes, father of one.
Father of one. And uncle to 3. Yeah.
Yes.
On my side. But yeah, with the Dallas Cowboys, we did a lot of coverage in 2024, talking about just exclusively what was going on with the team. And then I kind of broadened it out with the STS network. And it's always fun to come back and capitalize on our favorite team that has caused us so much misery over the years. And I find it funny because somebody was like, if there was, I think it was Sleeper, the fantasy app, was like, what's the biggest what if moment in sports? And I was like, if Dez caught it.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what it is. And there's so many others. But we're heading into a new season of who knows what. A lot like last year, we don't know what kind of team we're looking at. And this year, it's a completely different unit, practically. And so we'll start it off with kind of the big headliner is it's Schotty time in Dallas, apparently. We got Brian Schottenheimer. I don't think we've covered this yet, but I wanted to talk about a little bit, is there optimism or concern for the new coaching staff? And to kind of headline it a little bit, Brian Schottenheimer, first-time head coach, taking over from Mike McCarthy, obviously. I think he's worked nearly 20 years to become a head coach in the NFL. Kind of a run-heavy sort of guy. But then to his right and to his left, his little, I guess, aces in the hole, Klayton Adams is our offensive coordinator from the Arizona Cardinals, and Matt Eberflus from the Chicago Bears, and a former linebackers coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm honestly not sure who the special teams guy is, but I kind of wanted to.
Nick Sorensen.
Oh, Nick Sorensen. Yeah, wasn't that like a bad one? But everybody hated that one, right?
Yeah, well, it's because we got rid of Bones.
Yeah, Bones was good, except when Sam Williams was on the field.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you guys, let's start with the medical guy first. With optimism or concern with the head coaching staff, with the new changes and whatnot, we haven't gotten your thoughts on this yet here on the STS network. What are your thoughts on the whole thing?
Yeah. Really, it's optimistic in the sense that it seems like we've made like a lot of the right moves. I mean, you mentioned how Schotty has talked about being more run heavy and then going and getting an OC and O-line coach that came from 2 different organizations that did well in the run game. So it's like, I mean, if you're going to lean into the run, might as well get people that can coach it and coach it up. And I mean, we've heard from the past few years how we've had the players on the O-line, we've had the running backs, and then they don't perform well. And so it is always, I guess, optimistic to see getting into that sense with people that have had good experiences in places they've come from. Now it's just going to be interesting to see how we all put it together, considering, like you said, brand new coaching staff, first-time head coach. So I don't want to say set the bar low, but yeah, we got to set the bar low. We got to set it a little low.
A little median in there, somewhere around like the 8 or 9 win mark, which I think is where like FanDuel and betting apps kind of have us at, is right there smack dab in the middle to maybe making a wild card spot and maybe missing the playoffs.
Yeah.
Then the analysts of your kind of opening statements on the coaching staff. Optimism or concern?
I really have a slight bit of optimism, but not a lot. I was a fan of Klayton Adams becoming an OC. I was not pleased with the Eberflus hire as a DC. I think that is just a blatant, like, go get your best friend as a hire from Schotty. Because, I mean, I can't think of a time Eberflus was a halfway decent coach in the NFL. But, it definitely, just to build off of what Jacob was saying, is it's very clear that they're going run heavy. I mean, you get Jaden Berlew in the 5th. You sign 2 veteran running backs in free agency. You get Maffa from Clemson in the 7th. And then you get your first round draft pick is to replace quite literally probably the best offensive lineman in the last 10 years. To play inside the NFC East or possibly in his generation. So, I mean, it's pretty clear they're going run heavy. I'm just a little bit concerned on how advanced this coaching staff is, or if this is just another, fill the holes with Jerry, like Jerry is, just, oh, well, we don't like McCarthy, so let's just get rid of him. And Shotty's already on the coaching staff, so let's just hire him and let him pick his guys. But to Jacob's point, Jacob is right. I think the head coaching hiring was kind of like, oh, that's disappointing with all of the names that were out there. But the way he filled his staff does give you some type of optimism, at least for me, on like the offensive coordinator side and some of the other picks. Everything I read, people were like, oh, that's a good hire. So I just know the names. And I'm not impressed.
Well, we'll go in there like with Klayton Adams, the offensive coordinator. Coming from the Arizona Cardinals, he was the offensive line coach from 2023 to 24. Apparently, he had the 7th ranked run game in 2024. I think it was 144.2 yards per game, 5.3 yards per carry. And then you flip it over to the defensive side. And, the Chicago Bears are the Chicago Bears. They have been in turmoil since the Middle East has been in disarray. It's just been bad for the Chicago Bears. But from 2022 to 2024 is when his defenses with the Bears were they were good at taking the ball away for the most part. And they ranked 2nd in the NFL in interceptions in 2022. And I don't want to go too much into personnel, but to Ryan's point, I'll move back to Jacob, but to Ryan's point, when you kind of morph all those together, you get Brian Schottenheimer with kind of a run-heavy offense marrying it with the pass. And then Klayton Adams ranking top 10 in the run game, really good revamped offensive line type emphasis, especially with a young group like ours, which we'll get into later on the offensive line side. And then Matt Eberflus with getting the ball away. So it kind of seems like a game management, ball control type football team is what we're looking at is with this coaching staff.
Yeah. And I mean, we all understand this growing up in sports, and I've said it about, plenty of people before, is like, it's going to be real interesting to see, like, you've got people that are really good coordinators, but not necessarily great head coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, you look at head coaches, and yes, you do coordinate a lot of things, but that's what you do. You coordinate a lot of things, not just one thing. And so that's what I'm going to be really interested to see with Eberflus is like, we're all aware he wasn't the best head coach. But like Jared said, his defenses weren't terrible. They were pretty good with what he was given, right? And as we've seen with the Bears, sometimes it wasn't given very much. And so same thing with the Cardinals, right? I mean, yes, they had Kyler Murray. He did what he could with the O-line, who ended up being really good. And, when he had semi-healthy running backs, right, they always perform. When James Conner was healthy, he was always, top 10 in the league. So I'm just really interested to see how those two do in their element of just being coordinators, and seeing how well their, sides of the ball are run.
Yeah, I agree. And the analysts, your your kind of bounce back thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I was just reading up on how Eberflus has done in the past. I think that goes back to like running a 4-3. Um, I don't know. I was reading, but I think to follow up with that, I just think running whatever Eberflus does here is going to be interesting to me because he's already spent time with the Cowboys, but in the past, he was pretty, they say, instrumental to getting Jalen Smith developed and DeMarcus Ware too. But yeah, I'm a little bit concerned on the coaching side. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I guess to answer my overall question myself is, I'm more on the optimism side. I'm majority optimism, and that's not even because, like, I know Brian Schottenheimer isn't probably going to be a good analytical head coach. He's most likely going to be, from what we've seen and what all Cowboys Twitter, I guess my shadow the script statement here, with all Cowboys Twitter is talking about, they're like moths led to a flame. And it's just, oh yeah, the Schotty culture. Everyone's bought in. We haven't had a coach like this that players want to play for, and since before, I don't even know, but since a while. And you're like, dude, I mean, you guys are falling for it again. And and I understand that's the concern part. But and I guess that doesn't have to relate to optimism or concern. For me, it relates more to expectation. I don't expect Brian Schottenheimer to be a Super Bowl winning head coach. I expect him a lot like what Colin Cowherd said. I know I don't like listening to him very much, but he said he's one and done. I don't believe he's a one and done, but I definitely believe he's a filler head coach. And it's similar to the Jason Garrett scenario. Everybody likes him. He's great behind a mic. Yep, I was out boating the other day, or I'm playing golf. It's called a Schotty. It's a vodka and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, dude, that's all great. But what gives me optimism is the supporting cast, outside of Sorensen, is Klayton Adams and Eberflus, And we'll get into this later, Ryan, because me and you were talking about this off the record. But with the Bears defense, they struggled against the run in 2023, ranking 29th with Eberflus. So that may play a part in that linebacker core that we were talking about.
Yeah.
The
only thing I'll add to that, one hire on the offensive side I really hate is Ken Dorsey. Y'all know who Ken Dorsey is?
I don't know if I'm familiar with him.
He was the offensive coordinator that got fired after the Bills lost like the third time to
the Chiefs.
And I've got it pulled up. But yeah, he was with the Bills 2019, 20, 21, and then 22. And he got fired after the 22 season. And then he went to the Browns, got fired, and now he's on the Cowboys. But you remember, this was the guy that got fired when the Bills could not get moving. Remember, they fired
when
him. They switched.
Replaced with Joe Brady, right?
Yes, Joe Brady. Yeah, that's him. That's the one hire I don't like. They couldn't get Josh Allen of all people moving. That's the only hire I don't like. He's just
And is Dorsey? Is he? What coach is he? Like what position?
Coordinator.
Passing game.
Yeah, that's why I don't like it.
I was hoping you were gonna say like running back coordinator. I was like,
passing game.
That's fun.
That's why I don't like it.
Yikes.
Yeah, and it goes back. I guess that shortly it goes back to what Jacob says: is you hope that in a reduced role they're a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, I think that covers head coaching. But when you move on into personnel, we went back and forth about what the Cowboys should do. Obviously the ceiling with Cooper Rush as a backup quarterback, it's like, I mean, we've seen a season or two of it. And some people say he's better than Dak. Some people say that he's not even close and there's just no ceiling. You can't run the offense normally. But I say that because we traded for Joe Milton, a 4th-round pick. But I wanted to go into just kind of all of our offseason additions from the free agency, from trades, and to the draft. And so just to kind of refresh everybody's memory, obviously the big one was George Pickens. I mean, we traded for him at, what was it, a 3rd rounder, I believe. Yeah, third round pick, and I think we gave a late round pick in return and got a late round pick as well. And George Pickens obviously is renowned as a maybe not somebody with off field issues, but somebody with on field attitude issues, like we saw with Jordan Lewis post game when we won last year. And then to Ryan's point again from off the record was the linebacker room. You know, we were ranked 19th in 2024 and 2020 or in 22nd in run defense grade as well. So that needed improvement as well, which we did attack that as well with a couple of trades and free agency signings. And then in the defensive backcourt, you know, Trevon Diggs, you know, we talked about the kiss of death from the medical guy and the injury breakdown analysis from last year. We drafted a guy in the third round, I think it's Shavon Revel Jr., who is supposedly supposed to be the bee's knees. DaRon Bland hopefully plays a full season. But yeah, I guess y'all's overall analysis here, and I'll start with the analyst here. I'll give him the first go at it. But looking at the offseason additions, I guess what was your main takeaway? You don't have to go through the whole thing of all three of draft, free agency, or trade, but what stuck out to you the most this offseason, and how do you kind of plug it in with this 2025 team?
I think I'll just start with the offense, and I'll let Jacob go. But I'll give my quick pointers. I mean, obviously, going into the draft, we needed a receiver. Didn't draft one. I think I was very adamant to you guys about, like, if we don't get a receiver, we're throwing the janitors again. So it's good that we got George Pickens. That's nice. But, like, besides CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, not much there. But I think what the draft screams to you is that, and what we've been saying is they're really going to focus on the run game. When you draft a guy like Tyler Booker, and place him in the position of where Zach Martin was, that kind of screams like we're focusing on the offensive line. And then again, like I said, adding Jaden Blue and Maffa from Clemson. I like the Blue pick because he's a receiving back. I'm not a fan of the Maffa pick. And then, I mean, you bought some time with Javonte and Miles Sanders, so it's definitely screaming run heavy. But I'm just glad they found a way to go find a receiver in the league. And you know, I think George Pickens is actually a pretty underrated receiver as well. Nobody really puts him up there, but you got to think about it with the quarterbacks he's played with. Now, I don't think he's like top 10, but
Everybody
he's got some spice in him for sure. So I'll hand it over to Jacob for the offense.
Yeah. So with the offense, I mean, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head there with focusing on run heavy. I think we were all in agreement when we didn't get a receiver early on. We were like, oh God, here we go again. And so, you know, trading for George Pickens, I thought was a great trade. I know there's stats out there that show on, you know, deep routes, he's like top 5 in the league on separation. Obviously he can make plays. I think in his case, you do have to take in consideration the quarterbacks he played with.
Yeah.
I mean, Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, like that's pretty tough. That's a pretty tough crew to have throwing the ball to you. So it is going to be interesting. It is very easy to compare him to like Michael Gallup when he was healthy. And I think if you can get that kind of production, I think it's going to work out well for us. And then, you know, I know it's not the fancy pick, but Tyler Booker I thought was a great pick. I think he'll do well. And then it also gives you options in the interior offensive line because we have Bass, we have Hall, we have Booker, we have Smith. I mean, we have numbers on the interior part of it. Hoffman, there we go.
Yeah, that dude has a dog mentality.
And so it is nice to see, like, on our offensive line that we have options to choose from. And what's shown, like, each of them are good in their own regard, whether it be, you know, the run game or the pass protection or whatever. Where in the past, you know, if someone on the line got hurt, well, then it's musical chairs. And it's like, well, we can throw Tyler Smith over at blah, 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 and da-da-da. And it's like, it doesn't seem like we'll have to do that now.
We can move Zach Martin to right tackle.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And so
I
it's
remember somebody
like,
said that. I was like,
I will say, that's kind of like they've done a lot of things right in that regard. Now in the
mhm.
defense, I think it's going to be iffy. Um, Mainly because, I mean, if you look at our defensive back room, the Revel guy coming off ACL,
Mhm.
Overshown coming off ACL, Diggs coming off ACL, uh, lost. I mean, whatever you want to say about DeMarcus Lawrence, dude can still play. He wouldn't have got signed if he couldn't play. Sam Williams coming off ACL. And so it's like we're putting. I mean, I know we picked up some. We did the whole Dallas Cowboy thing where we picked up some former first round picks,
Yes, I was
some big
hoping somebody
names
would
on
say that.
From
defense.
like 2016.
Solomon Thomas. I think Fowler was a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Kenneth Murray. These are just big names. It's just going to be interesting to see how they pan out. You never know how people are going to come back off of injury. And I mean, if you look at Overshown, I mean, this is his second to come back off of. So it's like, is he going to be that same player? Is Diggs going to be that same player? And so I have more questions on the defensive side than offensive side. I think the offensive
Yeah.
side, we have more of an idea of what we have going forward because
Yeah.
everybody's coming back relatively healthy. You know what you get with Dak Prescott. You know what you get with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Like, now the running back situation, who knows? Whoever, I mean, that might be a hot hand. Like,
Yeah.
whoever's got the hot hand, you'll treat it like baseball, right? You know, you've got Mauricio Dubon hitting 380 for the last week. Well, we're going to play him until he doesn't hit 380 anymore. And so that's what it's going to be like, I think, in the running back room. But yeah, I for me, I definitely have more questions on that defensive side than the offensive side.
Ryan, I think
100% true.
you can pile on to that one with talking about the questions around, like, we get these pick me guys, the Kenneth Murray Jr., the Jack Sanborns, the Kaiir Lambs, the cornerback from Buffalo Bills, getting these guys in there to people coming off injuries like ACLs, like Marcus Nealon was hurt, uh, you know, what's his name? DeMarcus Lawrence was hurt, DaRon Bland was hurt, Trevon Diggs was hurt, Overshown was hurt, and then you pick all these dudes, and a lot of them are like, "Well, this guy's supposed to be good, or this guy could be good. He has the potential
Yeah.
to be good." And we've ran with this uh, team building scheme for probably 2 decades. But you were talking
Yeah.
about this the other day, so I feel like you can pile on to that.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I'll add is, I guess you could say it's my shadow the script, but Trayvon Diggs is going to be cooked, man. Jacob can speak to his injury better than I can, but when you go down with like a knee injury, and like I've had a teammate that did this, he went down with a knee injury, and then he had to go back in and get it reconstructed and cleaned out. Like that's what happened with him, right? They had to go back in there and refix his ACL.
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
that's never going to be a good sign. So the fact that we're putting him out there as our cornerback one, and we didn't sign Jordan Lewis back, who is the number one rated, correct me if I'm wrong, number
Yeah.
one rated slot quarterback in the NFL last year,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
that's a problem right there in itself. Then on top of that, what was the biggest problem in our secondary last year?
Safeties.
Safeties.
And we're playing the exact same safeties, Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker.
Yeah.
Do you know what Matt Eberflus likes to play?
Probably a lot of man to man, I would guess. Zone?
He plays cover four.
Oh,
So
God.
now we're
Yeah.
playing cover four with two Donovan Wilson, Malik Hooker. Donovan Wilson likes to just kill people. Malik Hooker likes to just get lost on the field. But yeah, but I mean, those are the negatives. The positives that I really like is they got Osa on a really good deal.
Yeah.
I know it's just really going to hit his prime. That's good. Mozzie Smith showed some bright spots. Finally, at the end of the year, do I think that he's going to be something crazy? No, but that's the hardest position in football to develop. In the NFL is defensive tackle. Those are the ones that take the longest time, unless you're a freak like Aaron Donald, which is not the case with anybody. But Yeah, I mean, I just have concern about anything behind our defensive line. If it concerns our linebackers, I mean, that's just a question mark. And our secondary is a huge question mark.
Yeah. I think those are all good points. And, on my side, y'all heard me talking about this for a couple of months, but and it's really, I don't even know if it will end up um, ripening into something exciting. But when we traded for Joe Milton, the fourth rounder, or traded a fourth round pick for Joe Milton, possibly the strongest, most live arm in the NFL, not as a starting quarterback. But I said,
Jared.
yeah, I was gonna say, because there's plenty of people that can throw the ball, but I always listen to the language. It's like in the NFL. I mean, this dude can throw like 85 yards. And you know who else can do that? Anthony Richardson. So I'm not really like super amped up
Josh Allen
about a strong arm.
Word about the most live arm in America.
Exactly.
So.
And Justin Herbert, guys like that, Mahomes. And what I'm excited about with that is I think it's not necessarily the athlete, it's the strategy they went by. Is instead of taking guys like Dylan Gabriel or Tyler Show or things like that, or you're banking on, is this guy going to be something? Is he going to make the roster? Are we even going to sign this guy? You went and got somebody that is sitting behind a young prospect like Drake May, who showed some real promise, and we've seen Joe Milton in NFL real game action, and he produced. And I would take that over any hypothetical in the upcoming draft. So I like what they did there with Joe Milton. And I have to highlight this guy because no one's talking about him. And it was our second round pick, Donathan Izurako. That dude led the FBS in QB pressures with 62 last year. Yeah, 62 pressures. And I can't remember. Is he from South Carolina or Boston College?
Boston College.
I think it's Boston
okay,
College.
Boston College. I think the dude's going to be a real go-getter. And again, it goes back to the hypothetical. We're optimistic about what the potential of this guy is. But paired with a healthy Parsons who's, out for a contract and whatnot, and getting some of those younger guys in there, like Nealon showed a little bit of promise. Dante Fowler's a pretty good rotational guy. It just seems like the whole team, linebacker, outside linebacker, and pass rushers, are going to be on full rotation outside of Parsons. It's just going to be flow fresh bodies left and right. But I'm excited about that guy. I had to highlight him in there. I think I have a ton of optimism for Donovan at edge. Mm-hmm. But is there anything, any other offseason additions or trades or free agents that you guys wanted to highlight? Or
Jonathan Mingo.
Jesus, yeah. I think the biggest one for me has to be Pickens. I'm really excited to see what he's gonna do. And we can say what we want about the Dallas's offense, but they can throw the ball. They've shown they can throw the ball, and just seeing what him and CeeDee Lamb will do now that there are two people to throw to, two receivers to throw to. I'm really excited to see how he does.
Yeah. I mean, I think we know what Dak can do when he has. I mean, we've seen him with Amari, healthy Michael, and a young CD. That was good. We saw him with Amari. That was good. We saw him with, CD and a healthy Gallup. That was good. It's just going to be, just to Jacob's point, it's just going to be nice to where it's like, it's third down and long, and we're all just watching on the screens like, well, where's CD Lamb? Because that's where the ball's going. You know? And Dak finally has his trade unlocked of the FU ball is back. We finally have a deep threat that can actually get down the field now. So
yeah, exactly. And the last thing I'll say with Dak, because we're not going to put too much emphasis on him, but I feel like his canon event happened again for the third time in his career. When it happened with Romo too, is you get like a year or two of good production, and then like one decent one, and then you have some life-threatening injury or out for season, and then the next season you bounce back and everybody's like, is he gonna play well? And he opens up week 1 with 300 yards and 3 tutties and has an MVP year but never gets the MVP. So I think that's what we're headed with 2024, performance-wise with Dak, is that when he gets a guy over the middle like Ferg, when he gets CeeDee Lamb and a number 2 that acts like a 1 and an enhanced Michael Gallup and some sort of a run game, and maybe we change the cadence because apparently that affected the pass rush. So here we go. We might see a 30-plus 10 interception year from Prescott now that he has 2 kids and something to play for. And which is
I
awesome.
think he had enough to play for before the kids.
Exactly. Ironically, and if Dak heard that, he'd probably laugh because not laugh, but that dude's been already through so much, so it's good that he's got the family intact, and we just hope that he, even Stephen A. Smith sees a look on his face after a playoff loss. You're like, dude, all that shit he's battling. Hopefully he gets it done. We're all rooting for him. We're all Dak truthers here. But yeah, so moving on to the offensive line rotation. We hinted at it earlier, because obviously with Tyler Booker in the first round, we got some key additions, I guess, to kind of patch it up. We talked about Brock Hoffman, TJ Bass, Sadiq Charles, and Rob Jones all coming in. I think we had Amir Richards. Ryan liked one guy that we drafted. I believe it was in the 6th round. It was an Oregon tackle.
I think it's the Matt Waletzko.
I think so.
Yeah.
But you talk about this year.
Really
He's talking about this year, right?
Yeah, this year. You mentioned that he might be a good replacement for Steele. That he might actually
be
the Cornelius guy.
Yeah, Johnny
Cornelius.
He's got. I watched some of his film when we draft him, and you can just tell when a tackle is really tactical. And when he played at Oregon, his hands were really good. His feet are really good. He's 6'4", 310 pounds. Getting a tackle like that in late rounds, you never really know. But he has a lot of tools that I feel like now that we have an offensive line coach like we talked about earlier that can build those tools, that's good because we haven't had that in the past. You saw that with Tyler Guyton. He got ripped last year. Granted, we had to play a lot of tough teams early on and a lot of great pass rushers, but I just think that if we are going to change some of the cadence and you are going to see a difference in how we actually are going to run the ball, then that's good because that was always our complaint. And I'll keep it short because we already talked about all of the offensive line, but I think he'll be good. I like our offensive line set up, the 3 Tylers like we talked about. I think Guyton will improve. Tyler Smith's already an all-pro. He's already he's the guy. He's the next, the Cowboys drafted him. How did the Cowboys draft another offensive lineman like that?
Yeah, to put emphasis on that, he allowed 2 sacks on 820 snaps.
Yeah, he's an
Booker,
animal.
Booker, I'll have it right here. He allowed 1 sack at Alabama and 970 pass blocking attempts in college.
Yeah. Well, I think he'll be pretty good. I've always been a fan of Cooper Beebe when we drafted him. That dude is an animal too, so I just have questions on Terrence Steele. He used to be... There was that one season, it might have been 22, when he was pretty good, and everybody's like, oh, wow, we found a right tackle. The last, 2 seasons, he's been abysmal to watch.
Yeah.
That Eagles game, the first Eagles game we played in this year, that was 2020. That was 23.
Yeah.
He completely blew the game. When Dak got sacked on 4th and long, completely blew that game. But anyway, the only questions I have on the offensive line is, Terrence Steele and how Tyler Booker's going to, work into the offensive line. Because, let's face it, he's got a big shoes to fill, like I said earlier. Replacing Zach Martin is no easy feat. Just like replacing Tyron Smith is no easy feat for Guyton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The medical guy.
Yeah, I'm big on just seeing how the younger dudes develop, right? And that even, to me, whether it be younger in age or younger in experience, with Hoffman, Bass, Beebe, Guyton, Booker, all those dudes, and seeing, and even the Cornelius guy, with a new O-line coach that preaches techniques and obviously makes people better, is if we could even get an average Tyler Guyton, that makes our O-line go way up. If we could get an average Terrence Steele, who at the end of the year last year actually wasn't terrible, but that's just because the rest of our line was suffering. If we could just get average play from both tackles, like our offense goes way up. And kind of like I talked about earlier, just the fact that we don't have to start playing musical chairs if someone gets hurt. Like we can see, like, say if Hoffman or Bass or BB don't start or whatever, those guys can come in and provide some sort of substance to the O line, rather just putting in someone that we put them in and it's like, oh my god, it's like and so that's just what I'm big on, is seeing. I guess if I wanted to pick one guy, I would pick Guyton, because that's a big pick. That's a first round pick, even though it was later in the first round. That's a huge pick for a huge position that if we're going to say we don't have necessarily the depth at, it's that position, because it's very hard to just, some people don't think it is, but and Ryan can take this too. It's very hard to throw somebody out there at left tackle and expect him to do well. And so I think his development is going to really, really cause the trend of our offense either to go up or down.
Right. Yeah, you're protecting that blind side on the left side. As we've seen in the movie, The Blind Side. But yeah, right.
No, I was just real quick. It's the hardest position to play on the offensive line, because it's the most. Most people like to start with their left foot forward, right foot back. But when you're on the left side, right foot forward, left foot back, does not feel as natural. Or at least for me, it never did. But you're also the blind side protector, so that's the big thing too. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of covered it all with I'm with Optimism. I'm kind of on the Klayton Adams train, where it's if we're changing cadence up, if we're not having to play, like Jacob mentioned earlier, playing musical chairs with the offensive line. It's like, well, let's throw this guy over here. Let's throw this guy over here. Brock Hoffman has a lot of eye black on. Let's throw him in for a couple of snaps. And I think a plus is, and not a lot of people talk about it because the position's kind of going away in a certain aspect, is the tight end. And for years we had Jason Witten on the edge, adding that additional sixth man for a block. And of course, Lepke is a pretty solid fullback from what we can tell, kind of a utility guy. But if you get some guys in a gap scheme offense, getting to that second level or attacking those cut blocking, coming across and attacking that edge player, kind of letting him go, just disrupting him for a second so that our running backs can hit those gaps, I think that's going to be huge. And Ferguson, I don't know if he's probably our strongest per se. I don't know. I don't even want to say if he's our strongest blocker, because I think Schoonmaker is actually a pretty decent blocker.
Yeah, I was going to say Ferguson is not a good blocking tight end.
Yeah, it's Schoonmaker. So not. I think you're going to see, and quote me if I'm wrong, well, I am going to be wrong, but that personnel number with two tight end sets.
It's 12.
Okay, I was going to say 21. That 12 personnel.
21 is two running backs.
Okay. I've always shuffled those around. And
you used to play quarterback. That's crazy.
We never had that.
Wild.
Empty back. Just let Jared run up the middle or sling it on a RP on some type of screen.
Yeah, exactly. There's like, run a 12 personnel. All right. 12th man, get in here. But yeah, but honestly, that was it. It's just kind of like the having a tight end emphasis in there. We can get some good blocking schemes. I think we might have 1,000-yard rusher if we get the hot hand, but which is always good for Dak, just keeping his legs healthy, keeping him, in that pocket comfortably, where we're not in pass mode for 3 quarters, and you wonder why he throws an interception. He's like, it's almost Dak sucks. It's like, well, the Saints scored 50 points in 2 quarters, so we're passing 1,000 times, and you think the defense knows that, or the Lions, or you name it last year. Anyway, but yeah, that brings me into the running back rotation. And we picked up some, like we talked about, some former names. They were names coming out of the draft or on even teams in our division, such as like Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams had a big injury, which we're all familiar with. Miles Sanders has been basically buried in the depth chart, twiddling his thumbs in Carolina, of all places, while Chuba Hubbard and there was a second guy in there that was doing some work. But and then you add the addition of the 5th round pick Jaden Blue and the 7th round pick Phil Maffa and what would you call it? The Make-A-Wish pick Deuce Vaughn and Hunter Lepke in short distance scenarios. And everyone's like, I think Jaden Blue is going to run the show. I think it's going to be Javonte because of his, the promise of what he could be. He's 2 years removed from his injury. And so I'm just curious what you guys think is going to happen in the running back backfield, knowing what we have in the offensive line, knowing the coaching staff that we talked about. Jacob, I guess with you, I mean, are you kind of leaning more towards we're going to go through a younger backfield rotation, kind of feeding off the young guy? I know you mentioned hot hand earlier, but what were your thoughts?
Yeah, so I really think it'd be, I don't know, I would probably put Javonte Williams at the top, just because even after the injury, he's produced a little. But I think this running back room is really going to play out like the spring training in baseball, where you have 2 more roster spots, and it's like, let's see, you've got these 2 guys, one of y'all are getting cut, one of y'all are making the team, basically.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I think that's what it's going to be is preseason, OTA, stuff like that is going to be big for every one of these running backs. I'd say Javonte Williams would be 1. I'd go Jaden Blue 2. And honestly, I mean, I think Lepke will stay in there, not necessarily as running back, but like you said, gadget guy. I think the Phil Maffa guy might be 3, just because his last 2 years at Clemson were really good. He's a big dude. He's young. His first 2 years, he didn't really run too much at Clemson, and then his last 2 he did. So he, doesn't have the whole treads worn on the tires aspect of it, and neither does Jaden Blue for that matter. But I think if you look at those 3, that kind of covers all your grounds as a running back. Is like you've got your natural running back in Javonte Williams, even though he's coming off injury. You've got Jaden Blue, who's a speedster who can obviously run between tackles, but he can go get it. And then you've got Phil Maffa, who, I mean, he's a big dude, and so he can carry the load. He can, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, fall forward and whatnot. But when it comes to Miles Sanders, when you get buried at the depth chart at Carolina, that's pretty tough. And then Deuce Vaughn, we just got Jaden Blue, so Deuce Vaughn to me he's P squad or he's cut. Yeah. And we signed Turpin back, so it's like you really don't have any more options.
Yeah,
it's not a use.
And Turpin, apparently, I think he's getting running back reps, which everybody's like, "Oh my god, what are we doing?" I'm like, I think we're just using him as a gadget guy.
Yeah, jet sweep, run sideways and make a cut. That's all we're asking you to do.
Yeah, exactly. I got Ryan. Your thoughts on the backfield as well?
Yeah, I mean, not much to add that Jacob hasn't said or what we've said already. I think it's going to be hot hand, OTA style. The only thing that I would argue with Jacob on is I actually think I do agree with what Javonte at 1. I think Miles Sanders will play the flip side of that, where he'll play, the spell back. But I think as we get later in the season, you'll probably see Jaden Blue take more reps. Just because he's fast as all hell. He can catch the ball. And I think he showed a lot of promise at UT. I'm not as big on the Maffa guy. I could actually see him not getting a lot of playing time. The real question I have is, out of all of these running backs, including Hunter Lepke, is who's going to be the pass blocking back?
Yeah.
I don't know how good Javonte is at that. I know Miles Sanders is not the best at that. And, you can't just put Hunter Lepke out there on 3rd down because then it's going to, like, as we get into the season and people are watching film, they're going to be like, oh, Hunter Lepke's out there on third down. It's a pass, you know? So that's the big question mark I have. I think we've answered all the other ones. The big question mark I have is who's going to be your third down passing or your passing back in general pass blocking.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really good point, and something I didn't think about either. Because I'm not familiar. I don't know if Javonte is a dog in pass protection, but I know he's kind of a bigger guy. I know Phil Maffa's like 230 pounds or something like that. So he's a big hoss.
Let's just run it back and bring Zeke back again. Why not?
Why not?
People going.
Yeah. Give him number 21.
He knows what he's doing. He's still got some left in the tank.
He's got one leg left.
Where even is he? He must be a free agent right now. He has to be.
That bozo's done.
Oh gosh.
He's been done since he went to Mexico.
DB list.
I'm looking at Javonte Williams' stats and his career, and they're not good.
No.
That's
No,
tough.
they're not.
But I mean, he did play for the Broncos when they were doo-doo, and had whatever that head coach, I can't even remember his name, but the one that he got bitched at in the middle of a meeting by somebody. And then
Hackett?
last year, I mean, no,
do you remember
I thought it was McDaniel.
I thought he was he was a Raiders guy.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Might have been Hackett.
Was there last year?
Yeah, because Hackett got fired and
Javonte
the Jets
Williams
took him on.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough running back room right there.
Which I find it interesting.
And Miles Sanders.
Yeah, him.
Miles Sanders, I mean, 3 years ago, yeah, he was great.
That's the story. You know, I think that you're going to have to lean on younger guys. But then again, we talked about, in the draft, you left so many questions that couldn't be all answered in 7 rounds. Yeah. And it happens every year. So we like our guys. We're gonna go find a guy in the draft, and he's gonna be the potential of him. We believe in him, and then he goes out there and plays, and you're like, I understand faith, but there's blind faith as well. So I don't know. They seem like has-beens to me.
Yeah,
but we can hope. All right, yeah. Last but not least, to wrap this thing up, and holy smokes, we are at 45 minutes. That's a feat right there, boys. Efficient talking, but yeah, Micah Parsons. This is honestly going to be probably a pretty quick one, to be honest. I mean, the contract holdout. The expectations with that. We know the player Micah Parsons is. We know the podcast host that Micah Parsons is. We know that the possible distraction that Micah Parsons can be. Although he does have a fun and somewhat entertaining personality for fans and then I understand that. But playing on the field, there's a consensus on both sides. There's 2 sides of the fence. There's the ones that get out there and shut down the podcast and go out there and play. We got games when we got a Super Bowl to win. And then there's the other one that watch him play, and they swear differently. They say, well, he's out there breathing through his ribs, trying to gasp for air, and you can see the effort and whatnot. And so, long story short, the guy has earned a contract, and I'm sure you guys agree with me in saying that if we continue to wait, we are going to pay this motherfucker $50 million a year, or close to it, above what Myles Garrett got. So, and you look at we got him on the 5th-year option for $21 million. But the top edge contracts right now is, and this doesn't look accurate at all. The first name that popped up on here was Josh Allen from the Jaguars. Well, I don't think he's the top paid guy. But I'll just go with Myles Garrett. It was $40 million. What I
I was
believe.
gonna say it's Myles Garrett or
Bosa.
Max Crosby or something like that. Because I think it's Myles Garrett because Max Crosby signed, and then like the next day, yeah, it was one or the other. It was like one of them signed, and then the next day the other one signed for like $100,000 more than the other one to set the record.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but it is like 40 million and 40.1 million.
Yeah. I mean, so what is if you guys were the front office, and we'll start with Ryan on this. If you were the front office, what are you doing? How are you handling this scenario? And I'm sure it's a quick fix because we're all looking at it the same way. But
Yeah, I mean, I'll just keep it short and give one example. It's the same thing as quarterbacks. You know, the quicker you can pay them, the less you have to pay them. And it's the same with receivers because this is what casual sports fans don't understand is, you know, it's like every time Dak signs a contract, everybody sends me a text message, be like, oh, overpaid. And it's like, well, he's really not. If you go look at all the other people in the league, it's the same thing. It's like they're all just competing for who can get paid the most, and those numbers keep going up. So it's like at one point, Russell Wilson was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL when he signed with the Broncos, and then you know Josh Allen was the highest paid quarterback, and then
Deshaun
Lamar was
Watson.
the highest, and then Deshaun Watson, and you know that's how it works. So the quicker you sign their contract, and the Eagles have this figured out. That's why they keep winning, is because they sign their guys, defer them later, and then pay them that way. Did I just cut out?
no, you're good.
You're
It
good.
froze
Oh.
for like a second, but
So that's what they do is, you know, they sign their guys, defer all of it to the end of the contract, and then, you know, that's how they keep their salary cap in order. So that's what the Cowboys need to do with Michael Parsons. The quicker they sign him, the less leverage power the player has. I mean, they'll pay him the right amount. He'll get paid 30, 35 right now if they did it. But if they wait through the end of this year, like Jared's saying, they're going to have to play him 40 plus because, you know, Myles Garrett's going to pick up the pin. He already has. Max Crosby already picked up the pin. You know, Myles Garrett's making 40 a year. Crosby's making 35 and a half. Bosa's making 34. So all Parsons has to do is sit down with his agent, slide a paper over and be like, see all three of these guys? Okay, now here's their stats and here's my stats. Where's my 40 million?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's why you pay people early.
Yeah. So my reasoning or my way to do this is probably going to be a little more complex. But what I would do if I was Jerry Jones is I would use all this money that he has and this highly, you know, expensive and money-driven organization that he has. I would create a time machine and I would go back 2.5 years. And then I would sign Michael Parsons and I would sign Dak and then we wouldn't have to talk about this shit.
yeah.
But like you said,
Exactly.
we can't do that. You know, he may could. You know, he probably has an elixir of youth somewhere hidden in his
If he
hidden
can
in
get
his
on
office.
Landman, he might have a time
Yeah,
machine.
dude. And so, I mean, everything Ryan said is 100% correct. And I keep bringing up all these baseball references because it's baseball season right now. But one of the writers for the Astros, when talking about Jeremy Pena, is, you know, they've failed to pay. And some guys you could tell, some guys you can't. Michael Parsons, we could tell, was a stud.
Yeah,
When he came out, he was a stud. His first year, everybody knew, like, barring injury, and even after this year getting injured, still a stud.
yeah.
And it's like you'd rather be, I mean, I don't want to say wrong, but you'd rather be half right early than too late. And so that's what's going to happen is they're going to be, you know, they didn't take a chance early. And so now I'm not going to say they're going to be wrong, but like now they've waited too late and we're in the same predicament that we are with the receivers. We're in the same predicament we are with, I mean, Dak. I mean, you could even say with Zeke. I mean, we gave him a hellacious contract, but if we didn't wait till that fifth year or whatever it was, or if we
I think
didn't
it was
wait
a
till
6-year contract.
yeah, it was like if we didn't wait till that fourth year of his rookie deal and paid him on his third, well, then we're looking at he's making 6.5, 7, and that's considered an overpay. Instead, we waited later and paid him $13 million a year. And so it's like we'd rather get on the ball early and maybe be half right. Like even if Micah Parsons turned out to be a Dante Fowler or a Robert Quinn, by the time his contract is halfway done, he's $20 million less than whoever else is getting paid. So it's like you're saving yourself.
Yeah.
But as we've seen, the organization we root for has not figured that process out. So yes, as of right now, you hand Micah Parsons a blank check and be like, hey, whatever you write down, we'll pay you, because I think we can all be honest. Off the field stuff aside, the dude wants to play. Mm-hmm. The dude wants to play for the Cowboys, and the dude is really good. I mean, last year he was hurt, came back and still. I mean, he's played 4 years, has 65 sacks, and like you ask him to play linebacker, he's like, cool. I'm sure if you said, hey, we need you to run the ball, cool. Like, I mean,
yeah.
He's kind of a tool bag and kind of a drama queen off the field, but like, dude can ball, and it's like you kind of take like
you got to take the line with the dime.
Yeah, like we've all played with those guys that are like, God, he gets on my nerves, but like, God, he's good.
Spencer
like,
Rattler. No.
Yeah, like we'll deal with it. Like, yeah, your 4-hole is a major douchebag, but God, he drops bombs, and you're like, well, we'll deal with it. Like,
yeah, that sounds like Kyler Murray in high school.
Well, I mean, the dude didn't lose a game until he got to the NFL, so it's
like
I'm
talking
it's
the baseball side.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that same thing applies.
Yeah.
Exactly. It going back, 2.5 years ago, pay it, like, and going back with, now that we know about with, this is the last thing I'll say, because I think y'all hit every point, but just kind of, you mentioned Zeke. I'm like, we know the running back lifetime now. It's like 7 years, maybe not even. And so if you paid a first round, 4th overall pick on the second year, maybe after he rushed for 1,700 yards and the next year rushed for like 13 or 1,400, and you just knew the guy was a dog and a bell cow, that's when you pay him. And yeah, I get it. The business side, behind closed doors, Jerry was probably like squinching his hands rubbing his hands together, or twiddling 2 nickels together, and going, oh, he bursted his knee before we had to pay him. This is great. We don't have to pay him nothing. I understand that evil side of the business, and that's something people don't want to talk about even with owners as critically acclaimed as Jerry Jones. But you go back 2.5 years ago. With any contract, especially with studs, it's why holdouts to me are just absolute nonsense. And every time I hear about one, I roll my eyes and I say, it'll get figured out in November, it'll get figured out in September. Just wait. Like the Shamar Stewart guy. Everybody's, I don't know if they're going to pay him. They're going to pay him. They don't have anybody at edge. They don't. They need Trey Hendrickson to play.
And he's holding out.
Yeah, they're gonna pay him in July. It's just gonna cost the Bengals. But people are freaking out. Oh my God, they act like they're not gonna play football. It's like, no, they're gonna pay them.
Yeah, they're just not gonna waste their time in volunteer stuff and cost themselves. Like, we understand it from both sides.
Correct.
So like, why? Like, yes, if I'm worth $30 million and you're paying me $2, I'm not gonna go to these volunteer workouts. But I'm not
just pay the guy.
I'll work out at my own gym that I have. Like, so just pay him.
You're missing valuable reps.
And you save money when you do, you pay a running back on his third year of his rookie deal. You mark it up as an extension. So it's like, hey, $30 million extension, right? Well, you have the rest of his contract and you're just extending it. It's like, it really is. I'm not a math guy, not a numbers guy, but it's not a concept. I just don't think it's that difficult of a concept just to realize, like, I mean, you can look this stuff online. They have these whole websites. You can literally just type shit in, and it's like, oh, well, problem solved. And we're like,
but they get it
pulls
from
out
us.
Pulls out the calculator from his drawer. It's like, all right, we've already lost. Like,
they come to us for this information, so they don't have to look it up.
Yeah, you can AI it. Chat GPT. What do I need to do to get Micah Parsons signed? They'd probably be like, pay him,
Ryan-
dumbass. Like,
Ryan looks like he has something he wants to say.
No, I was just saying I'm a numbers guy, and it's not that difficult.
Oh,
It's reading the market, and we just, as a Dallas fan, we've seen it time, like Jacob said earlier, we've seen it time and time again. They don't read the market. They don't look outside their own investors. They only listen to the advisors in-house. They don't look outside the box.
they're still reading the newspaper. It's like, what are we doing? Like,
We're not capable of picking up the phone and calling a different NFL team because Jerry Jones believes that the Dallas Cowboys are still the Dallas Cowboys of the 90s. That's the whole reason right there.
They are. No. Yeah. The whole.
they are.
The contract breakdowns is super easy for everybody to understand. It's like I go to buy a ticket for the Dallas Cowboys game, and my God, it's going to be fun. There's going to be amenities. It's going to be great, but it's expensive because it's fun. You're paying for fun. You're paying for the amenities and all that kind of stuff. So I finance it on a payment plan. I bought it in February and I pay it off 7 months and split it up. It's cheaper that way than to do it the day before and go, shit, I just spent $700, another on incentives, hence a hotel, another on a guaranteed money, your credit card interest rate that just went up or whatever. And you're like, that's what contracts is. It's just paying with a firm when you're checking out or whatever it's called, or shop pay. Like it's not. And if you're financing a football ticket, then change jobs. But like that's what it is.
Yeah, that's a pretty good explanation. It's not a difficult concept.
Yeah, but anyway, I think we covered all facets of the Dallas Cowboys heading into 2025, and we can revisit it once we come closer. We get more answers on the roster, on injuries, on because we open the season up with the Eagles on Thursday night in September.
That's dumb. I thought that was super dumb. Why not wait for week 11 when
best
Dallas?
football.
Yeah, when Dallas is 3-10 and you need to make some money, and we're like, slide that into primetime, baby. It's like, no, we're gonna break the views record week 1.
Exactly. Yes. But yeah, hey, we'll be back at a later date this summer, I imagine, with the Stats and Scars. I appreciate you guys hopping on. Probably we'll talk a little bit. Hopefully, baseball ramps up too.
We'll have to talk some college baseball. We'll have to talk about how your Rangers cheated in 2023. We'll have to do all this, dude. I've got just numbers ready to go for that conversation.
Is it barreled up baseballs?
No, it's the fact that every one of those players on that team set career high numbers except Corey Seager.
We do have to talk about that. I'd actually be interested in hearing about it.
Oh, you'll be interested. You got a 32-page dissertation just ready for it. No.
Apparently, just Texas MLB teams just cheat their way into winning.
They win. That's okay. I'm not saying anything.
As long as that's a disclaimer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, the Astros won another one after that.
Well, there's still time. We still got until Jesus comes back for us to win a second one.
That is very true.
So, could be tomorrow. But anyway, disarray. But anyway, we'll be back. This will be on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. For these types of episodes, honestly, I recommend Apple Podcasts. It's very easy. It's very simple. You can just click play and move on. I mean, this isn't one that, like, in all honesty, where you want to sit down and watch like the whole thing on YouTube. But I used to do these exclusively on Apple. But however you like to listen, it's available on all of them. You can watch on YouTube and Spotify, and you can listen on Apple Podcasts. And of course, we'll be releasing clips on our socials. If you don't follow it, you can follow us at Shadow the Script on Instagram, TikTok, and STS_pod on X. On X, I'm extremely active, as are the rest of us. I get myself into trouble sometimes with Mina Kimes and Emmanuel Acho, but it's entertaining to say the least. But yeah, we'll be back. Episodes weekly. And check out our website, www.shatterthescript.com. And a big shout out, again, this is y'all's first episode with the intro music from Travis Watney, which I finally got
Watney.
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 I had to get it live here with the brother-in-law, but he did a fantastic job, so I hope you guys enjoy that at the beginning of this episode. So, all right, we're out, boys. Appreciate it.